Right. Welcome, families. As folks are joining, we are going to get started a few minutes after 6 to let all of our families join. We're expecting about 100 of our Gateway family members this evening. So we'll get started, I'm guessing, around 6:05. There is no sound on your end unless one of us is talking. So don't worry if you can't hear anything.
Bienvenidos a todos. Vamos a empezar aproximadamente a las 6:05. Estamos esperando aproximadamente alrededor de 100 personas que se van a conectar a este foro comunitario.
Welcome, families. We are going to get started in a few minutes. We're expecting over 100 Gateway family members this evening. And so I expect we'll start about 5 minutes after 6 to give our families an opportunity to join. There is no sound that's happening right now, so don't worry if you can't hear anything.
Bienvenidos nuevamente al foro comunitario de las escuelas públicas de Gateway. Estamos esperando un número de 100 padres que van a participar en este foro, así que empezaremos alrededor de las 6:05 de la tarde.
Good evening, everyone. Hello and welcome. Thanks for being here this evening. My name is Sharon Ulkan. I'm the Executive Director of Gateway Public Schools, and I am really pleased that you're all here with us today to hear a bit about our preparations for the start of school and how excited we are to be getting back together soon. We are fortunate to have all of our school leaders on this call with us this evening, and hopefully we'll be able to answer a lot of questions for you as we go. So before we go any further, I would love for the fantastic Mirna Salinas to come on and just talk about how to access the Spanish interpretation. Thank you.
Buenas noches a todos. Gracias por estar conectados a este foro con nosotros. Como dijo Miss Ulkan, si quieren escuchar esta presentación en español, presionen español y yo se las estaré traduciendo. Y gracias a todos por estar presentes.
Let me know when we're ready to move to the next slide. Excellent, thank you. So again, as I said, my name is Sharon Ulkan, and I'm the Executive Director of Gateway Public Schools. I see on the list of folks who are here quite a few returning family members and some staff members and also some new families. Thank you all for being here with us this evening. We are really excited to be returning to our campuses to start the school year. And we know that you probably too are both excited and also feeling a little bit of anxiety around this big return. We certainly understand. And our goal today is to try and ease some of the anxiety and increase the excitement. That's sort of how I would put that for this evening. And in order to do that, what we're hoping to do is share some of our plans in terms of re-engaging our students, as well as our health and safety preparations. We'll talk a little bit about upcoming events for the start of school, and we'll have lots of time to answer questions. But we're going to start with a little bit of norm setting and introductions. So I think let's start there. Thank you.
Good evening, families. My name is Jai David. I'll introduce myself in a little bit here, but I wanted to just really quickly introduce our community agreements, which in all of the spaces that our teams start our meetings with, we start with community agreements, and it's really to center us, to ground us, and to allow for folks to bring their best selves into the meeting, the town hall. So the three today that I wanted to offer up for everyone to hold or choose one to hold we are all committed to partnering with each other. The second is appreciate the diversity of perspectives. And then the third is to maintain a respectful space. Next, yeah.
Hi, everyone. If I haven't had a chance to meet you yet, I'm Stephanie Casran. I'm one of the co-principals at Gateway. We typically like to meet in person, but since we're together on Zoom, we wanted to also highlight that there is not camera or audio from your devices, but the best way to engage with us is to use the Q&A feature. We know there's a lot of emotions and wonderings and questions moving into this next year, and we want to be able to get through as many questions, and particularly health and safety related questions, as we can today. So please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. If we see that there's a lot of questions on the same topic, we might group some together so that we can get through as many as we can. And if we don't get to all of the questions, we'll post responses in writing online next week. And so we look forward to hearing what's on your mind and hopefully getting through as many answers as we can tonight.
All right. Again, my name is Jai David. I'm the principal at Gateway Middle School. This is my first year at Gateway Middle School, and it is such an honor and privilege and an exciting time to be joining a team from just like across the way from me. I travel from the East Bay, Oakland to be exact, and I could not be more happy and proud to be on an incredible team with our assistant principal, our director of learning, and currently our interim dean of culture. But they will introduce themselves in a little bit about me. I have been serving young people for almost 15 years now. Formally in a school setting has been about 11 or 12 years. I taught science for about 10 years and simultaneously was an instructional lead, an instructional coach, and assistant principal before I switched over to become a principal. So I'm very excited to meet everybody, and I'm very excited to start the year off in person. That's the goal. And just to get a chance to see everybody and come out of these boxes for once. So again, my name is Jai David, pronouns are she, her, aya, and looking forward to meeting everybody.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lucy Hillardis, and I am our assistant principal at the middle school. And really glad to be with all of you today so that we can talk a little bit about what to anticipate as school starts in person. Also, similar to Jai, really excited about having everyone back on campus. And I've been assistant principal for the past year and a half at Gateway, and before that was a humanities teacher. So this will be my 9th year at Gateway this fall. And I will pass it over to Cassandra.
Thanks, Lucy. Hi, everyone. My name is Cassandra Dougherty, and I'm the director of the Learning Center at the middle school. This will be my 8th year at Gateway. I absolutely love Gateway, and I'm really excited to be in community with all of you in person this year. Proud San Francisco native and super excited to be serving other San Francisco natives here. And I will pass it over to Imelda.
Thanks, Cassandra. Hi, everyone. I'm Imelda. Nice to meet everyone here on the call. I'm the Dean of Culture. I'm taking over for Kia, that she's on maternity leave. And then I'm going to transition second semester into family liaison, and we're still working on how that's going to look like. So I'm going to be working with all of you guys, all of you beautiful people. I've been in education. This is going to be my 6th year. I started in education in Brooklyn, and then I worked in San Jose, and I worked in Oakland, and now I'm in SF. But initially, I'm a native from East Palo Alto. So I'm from locally, and as you can see in the back, I'm also a muralist. So I do murals around the community of East Palo Alto and San Francisco too.
Hi again, folks. I'm Stephanie Casran. I'm one of the co-principals at Gateway High School. I see lots of familiar names, and I am excited to see you all back in real life. This will be my 7th year at Gateway and 13th year in San Francisco schools. This is definitely a school year we know will be unlike any other, and I look forward to seeing you all again.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Wieder. I'm the other co-principal. I've been at Gateway for 17 years now, and I've been here that long because it's just such a phenomenal community. And I'm even more excited to be returning to a school year in person. This morning, we were with 9th graders in person to kind of kick off our ramp up to school. And it was a reminder of, what we've been missing when we've been at a distance, and how exciting and energizing it is, and a little awkward at first, to be back in person. So we're excited to be talking tonight about how we're going to go about doing that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amorne Ettenberg, and I am the Dean of Culture and Community at Gateway. This is my 2nd year at Gateway. It will be my 1st year on campus, so I'm really excited and looking forward to meeting all of the students, some that I've met in these little tiny boxes and others that I will be meeting for the first time. I am from Sacramento, California, but have spent the last 7 years teaching in various capacities, as well as being a dean in San Francisco.
Hello, my name is Marlise McCullum, and I'm the director of the Learning Center at Gateway High School. Been at Gateway for 15 years. I was a literacy specialist at Gateway prior to becoming the Learning Center director, and before that I was a resource specialist here. And before that I was at a middle school, and before that an elementary school. Maybe someday I'll go to college. I am really happy that you all are here tonight getting some information. And I'm looking forward to working with all the families I've worked with in the past and all the new families coming in. So if your student has an individual education plan, or 504 plan, I'd love to talk with you whenever you want. Thank you. I'll hand it over to Sharon.
All right. Thank you, Marlise. Hello again. My name is Sharon Ulkan. I'm the executive director, as I mentioned before, and this is my 22nd year at Gateway. I originally came as a teacher and then was the principal of Gateway High School and helped us found Gateway Middle. And I guess you can say I am a lifer. And I am just so excited to have our community coming back together. It's been a long time, and we are really thankful that you're here with us this evening, and we look forward to the first day of school. And Aaron, go ahead and pass it to you.
Thanks. My name is Aaron Watson. I'm the Director of Schools and Partnerships for Gateway Public Schools, Gateway High and Gateway Middle. I have been at Gateway for this is my 17th year. So I was a teacher at Gateway High School and then was our founding middle school principal and middle school principal for 9 years. And for the last year and a half, been in this role as Director of Schools and Partnerships. So I'm excited to welcome everyone from both schools. And we're gonna jump into first share some information about health and safety for this school year. And we're going to try to share as much as we can to give you as much information as possible, but also not share too much so we save time to answer your questions. So we may not address everything, and that our goal is to really give you enough information, but also allow time for questions. I want to start by just reminding everyone and sharing with everyone that all of the health and safety plans we're going to share are based on public health guidance that comes out of the last year and a half of research on COVID and how we've been able to keep people safe in school settings that have been open. So it's everything that we're going to talk about is based on guidance from the CDC, from the state of California, and from San Francisco Department of Public Health that we as a public school must follow. And the other thing I want to remind everybody is of our commitment at Gateway to equitable in-person learning that is safe for our whole community, staff, students, and families. So that is our highest priority, keeping everyone safe and making sure everybody has access to learning. I'm going to start by just sharing kind of like the guidance from California. The big goal is that all students have access to safe and full in-person instruction this year, and to as much instructional time in person as possible. What that really means is, in purple, like students need to return to school in person unless they're medically unable, and schools have been directed to follow this guidance to minimize risk of spread of COVID-19 to the greatest extent possible. And so the guidance we're going to be talking about is our goal is how do we minimize risk? And I will also share, today I was reading just the data on San Francisco for the last year, in which many schools in various capacities were open. And of 50,000 students who've been through San Francisco schools in the last year, San Francisco Department of Health has tracked less than 10 cases and suspected cases of transmission in a school building. So with all these things in place, we really do believe students are safe based on all that we've been able to track. So a couple key strategies that the state and the city of San Francisco Public Health are sharing with schools. First and foremost, encouraging vaccination for all eligible individuals to really kind of limit the community spread, because we realize that a school is not just a school, it exists in a community. The second one is the one we have the most control over right now, is like universal indoor masking. And that means all adults and all students will be wearing masks at school. And the rationale for that is that's the most effective way to stop spread, but it also allows us to reduce the physical distancing we've had in the past to be able to allow all students to be back in person. And then the last one is clear protocols for responding to potential exposure and cases. And those are things that have been implemented over the past year, and also that have been updated a bit for this year, since things are constantly changing. So I'm going to share a little bit about masking, and then we'll move on to vaccination and other things. So the masking requirements that public schools need to follow, that, like I said, are all students and adults have to mask indoors, and we will be providing masks as needed to students who arrive at school and forgot a mask. We recognize that there are moments like that. We're really going to be supporting students to wear their masks all the time. And so I'll give you a couple examples of what that looks like. First and foremost is modeling. Like, all the adults are going to be wearing masks, which sends a message that this is what, you know, we expect everyone to do, not just our students. Second, like, spending a lot of time communicating and consistently with students why we wear masks. It's about keeping people safe. It's not about it being a rule. It's about how do you keep each other safe and all the people that you love safe. And then lastly, I think if we are working as a staff to think about how do we just consistently and respectfully reinforce that with students. Second bullet point, masks are optional for all K-12 settings outside in California. That said, we will be encouraging students to wear masks and staff as much as possible. It's safest to have the mask off outside, and we recognize that there are certain situations where we're going to need to give students the break from the mask, and that the best place to do that is outside, as well as eating, things like that. I think I shared most of this, but just to reiterate the rationale for it, the biggest rationale is that having everyone masked is the most effective way to stop the spread of aerosols and droplets out of nose and mouth. And the other one that's important for schools is that in order to have everyone back at school, we needed to have a strong other measure so we could reduce physical distancing. So there will not be minimum social distancing that is required in schools this year. At this time. And then also just wanting to eliminate any stigma or lack of access by just knowing that we may have people on campus who are not vaccinated. We want to make sure everybody's masked to protect everyone. And the last thing I'll say is, I'm not going to get into detail about this, but if everyone's masked, the new guidance allows for more limited quarantine of students, so allowing students to stay in school if everyone's been masked, and if there's some sort of exposure. There's more that we can do to keep students in school in a safe way. I'm going to pass it to Sharon to talk about vaccination.
Thank you, Aaron. So just to preface the information about vaccinations, I'll just say that when we sent out an email last week with the updated guidelines about health and safety, it was certainly clear that there are a lot of emotions and beliefs within our community on both sides of the vaccination perspective, I guess. We hear that, and that said, the vaccination policy that we are implementing is actually not governed by us. It's not a decision that we can make. It's one that is decided by public health guidance. So at this point, all departments of public health locally, at the state level and nationally, are strongly recommending the COVID vaccination for all eligible people. That said, it is not currently required, and it's not required in schools for students. Public schools cannot currently require students to be vaccinated, and we cannot keep students out of school and keep them from their right to education based on vaccination status. That said, the protocols around how we keep students safe and deal with potential exposure are contingent upon us knowing vaccination status. And so we are requesting from all students and staff information and proof of vaccination or information that they are not vaccinated, so that we can respond following appropriate guidelines. So that's where we are at this moment. One thing I will just add in terms of, you may have heard both Erin and I say at this point, we've said several times at this moment, we can't currently, or we can currently. I think it's really important to note that, as has been true throughout the entire pandemic, the guidelines keep changing, and they change quickly, and they change in response to both new science. They change in response to new regulations at the state or city level, and they change in response to the virus itself, in terms of how much infection there is in the city. So we will keep you informed as things change, but this is where we are right now. I'm going to talk about a few other safety measures as well, just to give you a sense of how we're preparing. So in addition to wearing masks as being a really important and effective way that we can decrease the risk, another important thing that we can do is ensure effective ventilation. So that includes having windows open. That includes having our HVAC systems checked and operating. And it also includes having portable air cleaners throughout the buildings, which we are prepared for. I noticed in the Q&A there was already a question about eating, and so I'm just going to go into that briefly here. There may be further questions later, but eating is one of the few times when we will have to take our masks off, and we know that it's important that we eat. We want kids to be, we want all of us, in fact, to have our energy up. And so the plan is that eating will take place outdoors as much as possible. So depending on weather, and if we are inside, then we will implement some social distancing while the masks are off. And Erin, bring it back to you.
So one other important question that will come up, and this can get very detailed, so I'm going to give some context, is how will we handle suspected cases and symptoms. And I'll start with, again, there's a lot of protocols that we are given to follow. Local and state Department of Public Health have protocols related to when students and staff should stay home. So we'll be sharing that to staff, to students, to families, what to do when there is a suspected case and what to do when there is a confirmed case. These can get very detailed, and there's a lot of different scenarios, especially now that we have different vaccination statuses. And so we're going to communicate protocols with students and families in preparation for the start of school. And I'm not going to go into all of them right at this moment. But the most important thing, I think, for as we as staff and students and families prepare to return to school, is knowing that if your student is sick or if someone's sick, to stay home, and that the safety is the highest priority. And so that's what we're going to be communicating, and how to determine that as well. I'm going to pass to our middle school team.
All right, thank you so much, Erin and Sharon. We wanted to share a bit of information while we're all here together about the start of school. The first thing is that be on the lookout for a mailer that should be arriving sometime towards the end of next week with a lot of back to school information. So I saw in particular, there was a question about the after school program. So that is, for example, something that will be included in the mailer and sent out to parents via Parent Square and School Mint next week. Also some important dates and exciting events coming up at the middle school. We have our 6th grade orientation, which will be in person Friday the 13th. From 8:30 to a little after noon. That orientation is specifically for our incoming 6th grade students. It's a really exciting event. It is led largely by a group of 8th grade leaders to orient the students to the school. There will be a pizza party at the end outdoors, along with an opportunity for 6th graders to pick up their Gateway Chromebooks because we are continuing our one-to-one computer program this year. We also are offering something new this year, just a new to Gateway orientation for any 7th and 8th grade students who are joining us. It will be kind of towards the tail end of the 6th grade orientation, so include some lunch and also getting Chromebooks and getting oriented to the school. So getting a tour, getting to meet some teachers and learn a little bit about what they can expect in being a new Gateway student. So we're really excited about those 2 events, and more information will also be shared soon via Parent Square and SchoolMint.
In addition,
can you go back,
sorry.
Erin? Sorry.
After that, we've got our Strong Start Week starting August 16th. This is our SNASNY name for the first week of school. So we understand that it's not just the 6th graders and the students who are newly transferring to the middle school who need to be oriented. 2/3 of our students need to be newly oriented to our building because they won't have been there yet. And so we are designing that whole first week to be full of orientation and community building activities for all of our students so that we can all have a really strong start. And then our back to school night is our opportunity to orient all of our families. And so that will be held Wednesday, September 8th from 5:30 to 7. Not sure yet if that will be done virtually or in person, but we will be sending more info out shortly. You can go to the next slide now, Erin. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So I want to share what's coming up for Gateway High School. Like Gateway Middle, we have a big fat mailer coming out next week with lots of details. So thanks for looking out for that. But the overview is here. So we have all 9th graders coming to campus in staggered small groups that you should have gotten some information about in your email. Feel free to send us a message in the Q&A. If you did not receive an email, we'll make sure you get all of that information. 9th graders will be getting their Chromebooks, getting to meet each other, getting to know the campus a little bit. And then on August 16th, we're going to have a staggered orientation. We know that our 10th graders have also not been on campus. And I see a question there about how we're going to be attending to 10th graders' needs. And we are definitely thinking about what that class's unique needs are. And so for that reason, 11th and 12th graders will be on campus in the morning of the 16th to reconnect with each other and to also prepare the campus to welcome the younger students. And then they will actually head out, and 9th and 10th graders will arrive around midday. And they'll have some dedicated time in advisory and in small groups so that they're also building community in person before everybody is there together, starting on the 17th.
On Wednesday, August 11th, we have our orientation for families, and that will be on Zoom. We're starting with our 9th grade families from 5 to 5:30, and then all families will join from 5:30 to 6. That will be an opportunity to get to know us a little better, as well as what Gateway High School is all about. We'll definitely be answering some questions and also providing some information around how to use Parent Square support and any of the other tools that we use at the high school.
And lastly, you're going to want to save this date. It's a good one. Gateway High School's back to school night. It's a good time. You'll get an opportunity to meet each of your students' teachers and find out what they're doing in their classes. More information about the time will be coming and whether or not it will be in person or virtual.
Thank you, everyone. So we're going to start Q&A now. I'm gathering that people are already submitting questions using the Q&A button, but if you haven't done it, just click on the Q&A image at the bottom of the Zoom window and type in your question, hit submit. And we're going to have Shonda Locker is going to be looking at the questions, seeing themes, and asking questions to see if we can get as many answered as possible. So let's go ahead and get started.
Hi, everyone. I am Shonda Lockhart. I'm the Director of Development and Outreach for Gateway Public Schools. What I'm going to do is read off questions. If they are thematic, consolidate them into one question. If you feel like we didn't get at the heart of what your question actually was, please feel free to ask it again so I make sure that we see it. We are going to start with the order that they received in and prioritize questions that are related to health and safety for tonight's presentation. If we don't get to your question, we're going to track all of them and they will be answered in a printed Q&A that we will post on our website as a PDF. It'll be translated in English and in Spanish for you. So the first question that was related to meals was getting clarification around the plans for kids eating inside specifically.
I could start with that one. We're still determining some of it, to be honest. Over the next couple of weeks is trying to think about spaces, but our goal will be as much as possible to have students outside at lunchtime. That said, we recognize that that's not always going to be possible. So there may be students eating, for example, in a cafeteria space. And so we're thinking about how do you environmentally set up that space, particularly I'm thinking about younger students too, where you have on the cafeteria benches or tables, like lines or dots indicating a little bit of spacing so that students can easily know how far 3 feet is away. In terms of just like acknowledging that students may need to eat inside, part of it is also, we recognize that throughout a school day, students need to eat. And so, thinking about within classrooms too, just kind of problem solving and thinking through protocols for that, where students can at least separate by 3 feet so that they're not right next to each other if they need to take off their mask and eat a snack in a classroom or go to the back of a classroom or the front of a classroom. So those are the kinds of, just to give you some examples, the kinds of things that we'll be doing to try to keep distance while students are eating.
Thanks, Erin. We have a couple questions that are about this. And so there is a question about sharing the vaccination rate of stats and students. Example would be like a percentage of how many people are vaccinated. And then some clarification around why we are not requiring vaccination at Gateway.
So I can take a start at those. So in terms of sharing the vaccination rate, actually somebody asked us that same question in our community meeting earlier today. And my initial response was that isn't something we feel that we can share. And then Erin, who has been doing a lot of the work behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, did share that what we know so far about our staff is it's a very high percentage that is vaccinated. We haven't made a firm decision. I guess I'm being transparent. We haven't thought that through, what the right approach is. And then the second question, in terms of why are we not requiring our staff to be vaccinated while some other employers are? I would say that for teachers and those who work in schools, there are a lot of requirements around background checks and health and safety, and those are all mandated by the state, and we follow suit with what is required. And our position is that we will continue to do that in this case as well. We have not seen other public school districts or large organizations of schools that are requiring it in the public sector. So thanks for asking.
Great. And then what will the plan be for ventilation when fire season or there's poor air quality happens?
Yes, good question. So again, we are starting by following like San Francisco Department of Public Health guidance, and they've been anticipating this. And what they've communicated to us at schools is that basically when there's fires, our main kind of form of ventilation is the windows open, and then our HVAC system pulls air from the outside, which based on the question, this can be problematic if the air quality is poor outside. So what we have within each classroom space is a way to filter air in the room. And so there's a couple different ways that this can happen. One simplest way is a very large fans that have MERV 13 filters on them. So what they do is they pull the air through the filter, and so can move air very quickly in a classroom space. And when you move it through the filter, it's pulling in the any aerosols droplets and therefore purifying the air in the room. So we have that set up in classrooms. And in some cases, we also have what might look like something you would more likely have at home, like a smaller air purifier that you plug in that some of you may already have seen or have in your home. So we have kind of a variety of options, but they're all doing the same thing, which is moving air and moving them through a filter.
Thank you, Erin. There are a couple questions clarifying the start and end times of school for both the high school and the middle school. Could we have someone from each of the schools give a verbal answer to that?
Sure, I can share for the middle school. Our start time is 8:30 and we will be open starting at 8 for early drop off. And then our end time is 3:45. And on Wednesdays, we have an early release. So students are done at 2 o'clock on Wednesdays.
And at the high school, we are starting each day at 8:30 and we'll be ending at 3:40, except for Wednesdays that end at 2:25. If you are visual, you will be getting that in the mailer, and I'm also going to drop a link to that in the chat.
Thank you, Lucy and Stephanie. There is a question of, should we bring face shields? And I'm guessing this is related to students, but maybe also if we have faculty members on tonight.
Again, this is so what's required is that your student has a mask that covers their nose and mouth. That said, if a student or a staff chooses to wear a face shield in addition to that, that is totally supported and okay. You know, and we will try to, our goal is to normalize anything that's going to make folks feel safe and be safe. And so, but just kind of going back to what's required, it will be a mask that covers one's nose and mouth.
Great. And then a couple questions still related to food. So I'm going to ask them at the same time, but will the school be serving meals, and will high schoolers be able to eat off campus?
I can answer the meals, and then maybe I can pass about high school to one of the high school leaders. But so yes, we will be serving meals, and we are shifting. We'll have a different provider than we've had in the past. We've had San Francisco Unified providing lunches in past years, and this is the first year where we won't have that at either site. And one other change for all public schools in California is that lunch will be free to all students, which is a very exciting thing. I'm thrilled about that news. And so we will have more information about that in the mailing as well, and as the school year starts. And then maybe somebody from the high school can answer the other part of the question.
Yeah, so after years and years of student advocacy, we made the decision a couple of years ago to allow 11th and 12th graders off-campus lunch, which we will continue to offer. Our 9th and 10th graders will also have some opportunities for some more flexibility in their schedule, and we'll talk more about that in our orientation for families. And so if you are the parent or caregiver of an 11th or 12th grader, they will still have the chance to go get their panda at lunch and to pick up school lunch on campus as well.
Great. And then are we going to screen students at the beginning of school? And I think this might be in reference to screening for COVID or for symptoms.
Yes, so previously, prior to this start of this school year, we, in any situation, whether it was a youth program or a school, were required to screen students upon entry. And that would be asking students several questions, sometimes taking their temperature. All health screenings are no longer going to be done at school sites based on new guidance. So that's not going to be at any school site. There will not be health screenings when students arrive done by staff. So this again is why we're trying to, we'll be sharing more information, but really just encouraging parents, caregivers, students to check in with themselves before they leave the house in the morning to ask, do I have any symptoms? Am I feeling sick? And if one is, please stay home.
All right. And then this is a parent asking about having a 6th grader who is immunosuppressed and a student who is returning to 8th grade and being worried about coming to campus. So I think maybe what are the kind of considerations that are in place to take care of all of our students?
Thank you. So yes, so I'm gonna actually go back to kind of what we started with, which is all of our protocols are designed for the idea that we know that, for example, 6th graders, many of them are not old enough to be vaccinated. So we're starting from this place of, we know that there are students who are more at risk than if they were vaccinated. So that's why we're implementing protocols like universal masking for everyone as an effort to protect all students, all families. In addition to that, I think if there are specific questions that you have, I would also like to just encourage folks to reach out directly to us at school sites. Like if there's and I will say specifically around, if you have concerns about, a student who's immunosuppressed, we would love to talk with you individually, just to kind of talk through that with you.
And to that same note, a question of, will students have the option of having virtual classes if they don't feel like they're going to be safe?
So not through Gateway at this time. So like if basically the guidance from the state of California is that we're making every effort to get every student back in school unless they are symptomatic, of course, in situations like that where they have to stay home for a few days. If as a student and family, you have significant concerns about health related to your student themselves being able to come to the school from a health perspective, please contact us because we are not offering a virtual option this year. And so we want to talk with you and think through that right away.
And just to add to that, part of the requirement from the state is that students must return to school unless they have indication from a doctor that they are unable. So the way that the state has sort of the movement is to have students back in school and for us to ensure that we're following the guidelines to keep them safe, rather than providing the option for kids or schools to continue to offer virtual for kids who could be in school.
Great. And then will unvaccinated teachers and staff be tested regularly for COVID?
No. we will ask our staff, similar to our students, if they feel sick, they should not come to school. And there are protocols around their return if there's a suspected case or a confirmed case, just like students. But we are not requiring testing of our staff at this time.
And I would add, just like the guidance that we have as schools is that we are not recommended to do routine testing for students or staff. We are only asked to either do or support testing in response to the symptoms or suspected cases. And so that's the guidance we're following.
Great. I'm going to take a few of the questions that were not related to health and safety, but came in earlier in the program. So there was a question about what is Parent Square and how do we sign up for it?
So you'll be getting an invite to Parent Square soon for all new families. And basically, Parent Square is a system that we use for a variety of communications. So it's the way in which both schools communicate out to parents via email or text message. It's how we send out newsletters, announcements, things like that. It is also an online directory for the schools and an opportunity where parents can also connect to each other. And it operates as either an app or through your email or text. And so you'll get an invite and once we do registration so that you can join and update your contact information if you choose to.
And while we were away from school, Parent Square was just an absolutely essential tool that we had. And those of us who've been around, we're pretty well trained in it, families, staff, and kids. So if you're new, make sure that you work with us to get on it, because you'll want that type of information that is shared via Parent Square.
Great. And then there's a question of, are there after-school programs for high schoolers?
I can answer that. So there's a lot of activity in a typical school year after school at Gateway High School, from sports to clubs. We have a lot of partnerships with programs like Girls Who Code and Mission Fit. And we also have a Boys and Girls Club on site. We don't have an after school program per se at the high school level. That's less typical, but we do have lots of ways that students can be involved after school if that's what you're looking for your student.
All right. And then are there any protocols related to athletics and team sports?
Yes, and those are regularly shifting. And so the way in which we'll communicate out about those is for example, at our high school and the middle school, the athletic directors will communicate to students interested in participating and those participating what the current requirements are. At this time, sports are going to be able to happen, which we're really excited about. There's sometimes different guidance depending on the type of sport, whether it's indoors, outdoors, how much physical contact there is, things like that.
Thank you. And then is there someone in the office at the middle school and or high school to answer calls at this time? Or what is the best way for families to get in touch with someone if they want to speak to someone right now?
I can speak to the middle school piece. So we are in the middle of, our office manager will start on August 3rd officially. So she is making her move from Texas, which has been really exciting. So in the meantime, if you leave a voice message, I am trying to get through as many as I can and respond to the ones that I can respond to and send it off to folks, to different people who can respond to it. But I've personally been calling families Another way you can get in touch is I will actually leave my email address in the chat, and we can connect that way and set up a time to connect if that feels right for you.
Similarly, at the high school, wonderful Miss Salinas is back in the office on Monday. Wave your arms, Miss Salinas, if I got that wrong. Okay, is that a thumbs up? Okay. Okay, great. And lots of folks are returning to the building. Like Jai said, if you would like to be connecting with us more urgently, you can feel free to reach out to email or chat that you'd like a follow-up.
All right. And then just as a note, we only have 4 minutes left until 7 o'clock. If you submit your questions, I will make sure they're captured. And again, your answers, if we don't get to them, will be posted online tomorrow. We'll make sure they get posted to Parent Square and on our website, and you'll be able to find them easily from the homepage of Gateway's website. The last question for now that is related to health and safety is about how many students are in classes at the middle school and high school. And I think this is probably related to how many students will be in a room for safety reasons.
I can start with just a quick answer and then let folks add to it. So at our middle school, at Gateway Middle, the average class cohort size is maximum is 26. So 26 students in a room. And at the high school, I think it's because high school classes are not all the same size, there's more of a range, but I think the average is similarly somewhere between 23 and 25.
All right, everybody was happy with that answer. And then another question, one of our other technologies that we use at Gateway is Power School. What is it? What do we use it for? And how do parents sign up for it?
I can share a little bit about that. Power School is our student information system, which houses, student schedules and contact information, and where students can check their grades. Students will be trained on how to do this, and there's also information going out about how to log on and get a parent account that will be in the mailer that comes out next week, at least for the middle school. And then that's also a focus of our back to school night, is making sure that all parents know how to access Power School and can check up on grades and student progress regularly.
All right, and we have one question left. Oh, actually, let's see, there's one question left that was sent in earlier, and we have 1 minute left. Is there an anticipated shortage of substitute teachers? And if so, is there a backup plan?
Good question. We've definitely been talking and thinking a lot about making sure that we can cover classes. So we've done a couple different things. One is that we're employing a few additional people at each school using additional funds that the schools get due to COVID. And some of those folks will be supporting, if as need be, coverage. And then in addition to that, we do have access to subs beyond our buildings. So we aren't anticipating a shortage at Gateway specifically, but it's a good question because it's something schools are thinking a lot about. And I saw that there was a question about lunch in the chat. And yes, lunch is free for all K through 12 public school students in California, regardless of the public school you go to, including Gateway High and Gateway Middle.
All right, it is now 7 o'clock. If you have any questions that you still want to ask this evening, please don't hesitate to reach out to the leadership at the schools that your student goes to. And this recording of this session will be posted on Parent Square. And for new families who are not yet on Parent Square, it'll go out through School Mint. So we'll make sure that it gets to you, and you'll get a link to our website where everything will be posted there.
So I just want to thank you all for being here this evening. You ask such good questions. I can't believe our last softball question, not softball, was about subs. You guys are, you community members know what you're doing. You're asking such wise questions. We appreciate you so much. We look forward to actually being in person again. And we are around if you have further questions. Thanks so much for being with us. Thank you, Gateway staff also and school leaders for being here. And we look forward to seeing you soon.